Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady here with a weekly garden tour. It's the middle of May and the garden is doing everything that I've been dreaming of since last fall when I sowed the seeds. I'm so excited to show you around, so let's get to it. So right here, off the front porch, out the front windows, everything is looking magnificent. I am so relieved. So on Saturday, the day of the open garden, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of poppies opened. Literally the day before, there was hardly anything in bloom. And you can see here, you know, all the way from the edges with the nigella up to the bachelor buttons and then the larkspur and then all the different color poppies. This front border totally came to life just in time for everybody to come and visit on Saturday. And of course, Saturday's weather started off beautifully and then it got progressively cold, windy, and then rainy. So again, I stand by my idea that if you need to break a drought, you need to invite me and I will throw a party and it is guaranteed to rain. But you can see this cottage garden is just doing everything that it's supposed to do. It looks like a cottage. It's a Carolina cottage with a garden that matches. So pan across, you can see the lettuce, the wildfire lettuce is starting to bolt. And across the front, the barley wave is filled in really well. Not much diversity. There's some larkspur coming. The poppies that were here, I guess, got crowded out. And it's really funny because over here in this open sunny area, sunflowers are starting to germinate from last year. So out here on the very front border, we just had a garden tour end, which is why I'm a little late to get this garden tour up today. But the view out here is really sort of at its peak with the Cotinus in full bloom and the Deutzia, which is also sometimes called Deutzia. I don't know that it matters. I learned it as Deutzia, so that's how I say it. This is a species called Scabra, and this is the straight green form. I'll show you the variegated form that sports constantly, and you could cut the green sports out. It's just a lot of effort. I don't think it's worthwhile. Of course, all of this in front, this is Lespedeza. That will bloom like in the fall, September, October. And even here in the shade, like Pycnanthemum is taking over as a great ground cover. I have a few more areas to fill in because I really don't want to have to mulch in this bed. So this bed has been a constant work in progress. You can see a vetch. I let this one go. I know I'll regret that. It's gonna set 1 billion seeds, but the vetch really is pretty when it flowers. The tiger eyes roost, which is a major spreader. You can see it's sort of sprouting up all over, but in this bed, I want that to happen. And of course, in this bed, I also want the phlox to fill in. You know, I'm trying to move things from areas that I don't want to have spread and bring them out to this border where they can take over because I don't want to have to mulch this area. And the irises are still looking very nice, and I'm not a huge rose person, but at this time of year I've realized I have a lot of roses. In this case, this is the knockout rose, so I'm not a huge fan of, but it's been getting nibbled pretty significantly by deer. I don't care. I'm not going to spray it because I'm not in love with that plant. This one's not blooming all that well, and you can see where it's basically the deer just nibbled everything that's super accessible. That's fine. I'd rather have them eat the knockout roses than, you know, some of the other plants that they might be eating. So this other side property border is looking good. You can see the eucomis, sparkling burgundy. This is the pineapple lily. Those have all emerged and look great. I love them mixed with this carex ground cover. And of course, all these self-sown nigella are looking beautiful. They're just so airy and pretty, and they're great cuts, and they're great floating. I have some weeding to do in here. I was telling the garden club, my main weeds in this garden are native trees, sweet gums and oaks. And you can see there's tons of oaks germinating this bed, and I need to get rid of those. I have some poison ivy back there, which I'm severely allergic to, so I have to be super careful. Often end up with poison ivy in my eyes because I'm not careful. So I'm saying this to all of you in this video to help hold myself accountable. Make sure I change my gloves. And before I walk around back, I just wanted to show you the front border from this side. This is from, you know, next to my car with the phlomis in bloom. And then all of that larkspur and poppies and bachelor buttons behind it. This is definitely the vision when I am scattering those seeds in late November. This is the moment that I am aiming for. And it's always a relief when it actually does come true. Now, hopefully those of you who visited, you got to pick some strawberries and eat them. This border has just been so abundant this year, and of course I think the containers here look great. The barley on this side of the wall is starting to dry. I'm gonna harvest this probably this week. You can see storms made this side collapse, so good to know. Look at the artichoke here. This is the cardoon, technically. It's the only one that's doing that. They aren't reliably hardy here, but this side of the barley wall looks awesome. Hopefully some people got to get their picture taken in front of this. I forgot to put up a sign, but it's definitely my favorite place to drink some coffee. And I'm gonna post rice videos tomorrow. But because this is a weekly garden tour, this is 1 week since I sowed it and it's germinating. But I'm gonna give you the exact instructions in tomorrow's video, so just hold tight. So as we come along this border, you can see the nigella is in full bloom. I love it so much. This is all self-sown. And actually all these larkspur are self-sown, as are the poppies. It's more larkspur and nigella in here. And across the south border, you can see the California poppies are flowering. All those self-sown that I was showing that were the perfect spacing, you can see how big and robust those are. Ultimately, I think the height is related to the amount of sunlight. So poppies are definitely going to do better in more sun than shade. But I'll show you some poppies that are in shade. They aren't blooming yet, but they are living and they're just a lot shorter. And you can see the primary pollinator for poppies are honeybees. And this is why I always say my poppies are open pollinated. I can't guarantee any specific color because the pollen gets moved from plant to plant. And that's why I think these poppies are so spectacular, because they have such great color diversity represented. So during the open house, the questions that I answered the most were, what are these trees? And these are persimmons. I forgot to label them. And they are in flower right now. And you see this one, just tiny little green flowers. This is actually a male. And so it pollinates the weeping one that's right here. And yes, there are flowers on it. And you see these are our small yellow. Whoops, just dropped that one. Here we go. Here's a little persimmon, a female persimmon flower. Well, no question, I am deeply in love with how the backyard is looking. The Ms. America being cut back a few weeks ago, it's blooming again. It looks so good. And of course, mixed with all the different poppies and larkspur, you could tell I really, really love these plants. Of course, I've been waiting for this moment since November when I sowed the seeds. So now is the time to really cherish it, because, you know, in a few weeks' time, it'll all be over and I'll be collecting the seeds again. And that's why when people asked, well, why don't you have poppy seeds for sale right now? Well, first of all, now is not the time to sow poppy seeds. You have to sow them in the fall. I don't have any seeds. My seeds are I have to wait until these plants ripen to have seeds again. So I'll never ever have poppy seeds available at the spring open garden because I don't have any at this time of year. Again, the view is just colorful and cheerful. I love the fire pit that I redid last Monday with the mangaves. And then all the different color poppies right here with the blueberries. They look so cool. This is powder blue, my favorite variety of blueberry. I really love this brilliant dark red. But I can't pick a favorite color of poppy. I like them all. I really like them all mixed together. Same thing with the larkspur. I love the diversity of color from purples and lavenders, whites, pink. I don't have as many blue this year, although I say that, and then, you know, you look at this and that has some pretty significant blue in the flower. I did bring all my tender plants in last night. I was quite annoyed with last night's forecast. We got to 38. That is not the temperature that, you know, peppers and eggplants and tomatoes want, so my shed's full again. But happily, the cold temperatures don't bother any of these spring flowers. In fact, it'll make them last a bit longer. So today's kind of just like a quintessential spring day, which is a treat considering it could be really, really hot. I was a little aggravated that I had to wear jeans and a sweater, but I appreciate it now. So up here, I think maybe it's supposed to be said Oya pot. I totally don't know how to say it. O-L-L-A. I called it Ola. It don't look great. I need to water it more. Even though it has water in the inside, it's not staying wet enough. So I gotta remember to water. I did clean up the patio area for the open garden, and I like the new layout. I moved the chase lounge to this side and instead of over there, and it kind of gives you a little more accessibility. And these rice haven't quite germinated here. I did this a week ago, but this rice is germinating. And again, I have videos that show my process for this that will come up tomorrow. I just wanted to show you all the tender plants that are once again inside. So irritated with the spring, but I do think this is the last time, right? Has to be. Well, and in classic spring North Carolina fashion, we've got the house filled with plants again. These are what's left over from open garden. We've got upper 30s for tonight. So, brought all the tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and all the summer stuff that isn't necessarily going to die at 38 degrees, but will definitely have some physiological issues as a result of those cold temperatures. So here's your warning. Hopefully this is in fact the last cold snap that we will have for the season. And I was telling you about poppies in the shade, and you can see this area gets quite a bit of shade. It's not full shade, but it's more shade than sun. And these poppies, you know, are just starting. You can see they're significantly shorter, and the plants are just generally not as robust. And they're a bit later, but that's okay. They will still bloom. So for those of you who maybe haven't grown poppies because you thought you didn't have enough sun, maybe you can grow them. They definitely do better in much brighter exposure, but here you can see them. I mean, some are super, super tiny, but they'll still flower. And then all of you regular viewers will appreciate the fact that I did some big pruning last week in here. So I cut back a big shrub here. That was Pittosporum heterofolium. I'm not sure I got that right. We took down an evergreen magnolia that was crowding the lilacs here. So the north side of the house looks a lot better. I could definitely do some more selective plant removal, and it would have more space and everything would do better. So maybe I'll have the courage to do that this year. everything along here, it's definitely, you know, becoming a lot shadier. But I was showing the garden club today. You know, look at how great these echinaceas look. They will be blooming soon, and they are in dense shade. So there's some plants that you might not associate with growing in shade that you actually can. You know, this edge here only gets sun for a few hours every day, but again, the plants do quite well. And of course, this is a little corner of natives. You've got a Monarda right here that needs the Chelsea chop because this will get way too tall. I love the Spiderwort or Tradescantia. And this corner of phlox is looking good, growing in more shade than sun. And that brings us out here around front. You can see the wildfire lettuce mix with the garlic. And then this little pocket here that's looking great with the different alliums and poppies and larkspur. Just so happy that it's all come together. A few weeks ago, I was like, oh gosh, what if it won't flower? Even though I know better, you still question it. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's garden tour. I've got to hop on a Zoom, unfortunately, but I look forward to sharing another update with you next week, and I'm wishing you all the best for a fantastic week in the garden. Thanks for watching, everybody.